have a Witcher Netflix series coming very, very soon, which I'm so excited about. It was written and adapted by Lauren Schmidt Hissrich, which seems to be very, very caught up on the whole lore, on the story, on what happened in the games, on what happened in the books. A lot of people make it a huge thing to say that the Netflix series is based off of the books. The content absolutely is, but the video games are also there as inspiration. If it weren't for the video games making The Witcher known as a huge thing throughout the world, I don't think we would even be seeing this Netflix series. And Henry Cavill, who was casted as Geralt, he was a huge fan of the video games. He hadn't read the books until he was casted as Geralt. He sought out to be casted as Geralt. He bugged them to the point where they were like, okay, fine, you can be Geralt. But at the same time, Hissrich says that when she heard his voice, she was like, he's Geralt. And even when the fans heard Cavill speak as Geralt for the first time in the main trailer that was released not long ago, people say he sounds like Geralt.
I had them filed down.
To me, he sounds like Doug Cockle, the voice of Geralt from the video games. Hissrich does say that they're taking different routes in some of the story elements. Very much like Game of Thrones, where the book readers, they knew what was coming, but at the same time didn't because the show changed things a lot. Hissrich says that in episode 3, they introduced a character that wasn't even in the books. They do it for a reason that you won't know until the second season, which is crazy to me because Netflix is so sure that this is gonna be a hit, so much that they picked it up for a second season without even showing it to the public yet. They're taking a huge gamble on this, and it makes me really excited because they must be very, very confident in what they've made. The content for the first season, from what we've seen so far, is from Last Wish and Sword of Destiny. Originally, the idea was that they were going to adapt The Witcher to a standalone Netflix film. If they chose to make a film about one of the stories in the short stories of Last Wish or Sword of Destiny, which one would they have done? And if they had just done one, it obviously would have turned into a series anyways. So that's why Netflix went with a series instead, because it's just too much. It's also been said that the production value for this series is pretty big, one of the biggest that Netflix has invested in. Dark fantasies, if they're not in a way believable, kind of like Sapkowski had said before, that for him, fantasy is taking the impossible and making it seem probable. If there's a tiny bit of doubt in a dark fantasy, it kind of kills the magic. I think that another huge influence for this series was Game of Thrones. That this is coming out after the end of Game of Thrones, I think is brilliant because you're gonna get that crowd that is hungry for more dark fantasy. Hopefully, Netflix takes the risks that HBO did with Game of Thrones. I mean, Game of Thrones crossed lines that many shows didn't cross. The Witcher absolutely has that potential in the content that is there already. It has to do with Netflix now, whether they will cross those lines, which I hope they will. It becomes more than just a show. It becomes like a analysis almost. I mean, this story is just, it's timeless. Even though it's so fantastical, there are elements to it where it's just like, I get what that means. I know what that is. So if the Netflix series does well, I'm pretty sure Netflix will probably think of making a film, or maybe even Hollywood will jump on it as well. But it wouldn't be the first time. The first time we saw Geralt on the big screen was in Poland, 2001. And let me just say that people kind of want to forget about it.